when 25-year-old Linda Scavana gets lost in the Grand Canyon. Her dream holiday turns into a living nightmare.
I was starting to panic, and I wasn't thinking real clearly. It was very, very scary.
For over 20 days, she must battle hunger, dehydration, and the extremes of the mighty Grand Canyon in a desperate bid to stay alive.
I remember thinking, if I could maybe just die in my sleep, that would be the most peaceful way to go.
Twenty-five-year-old Linda Scavana is preparing to set off on an epic solo driving trip.
I had 3 weeks vacation from work. It was definitely an escape, just a time to get away from the stresses of everyday life.
A student nurse from Pittsburgh, Linda is heading off across the length of America. A trip that she hopes will satisfy her sense of adventure.
I was kind of a rebel at times, my own idea about things. You know, when you're young and 25, the world doesn't seem so dangerous. I just wanted to see America. My plan was to drive 6 to 8 hours a day and then find a campground, pitch a tent, and sleep, and then set out early the next morning.
And to keep her company on the trip, she's brought her best friend, pet dog Koko Jin.
It was the first pet that I had ever had as a puppy. We were very, very attached. Definitely my child, my baby.
Linda spends 2 weeks traveling over 2,000 miles across the country. But before she heads home, she wants to make the trip extra special with a final hike into the mighty Grand Canyon.
It was one of the places that I wanted to visit because it's one of the natural wonders of the world.
The Grand Canyon is known as an epic tourist destination, but it's also a popular place for hiking.
Come on.
Before she heads off into the canyon, Linda stops off at a local store to buy postcards and let her family know that she's fine.
On one of the postcards, I saw a set of waterfalls, and I thought, oh, you know, I'd like to see those. But I wasn't sure where you leave and what kind of a hike it was.
Do you know if there are any organized tours to the waterfalls?
No organized tours as such. If you drive up to the hilltop campsite, you can make your way down to the Supai village, and the falls are right down there.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
So I wrote my postcards up, and I recall sending one off to my brother and sister-in-law.
To get to the waterfalls, Linda and Koko Jin must first drive to a staging post at the beginning of the hike.
I didn't know that it would take me as long as it did because it was, I think, maybe about 35 miles. but it was all dirt road, so it took me a couple of hours to get through that and to finally get to the hilltop.
By the time they get there, it's already lunchtime. It's late in the day to be setting off on a hike. But undeterred, Linda heads off into the valley.
Yeah, Mom.
Yes, I was overwhelmed by the size and the enormity of it. It made me feel small.
It's 8 miles to the waterfalls near the Supai Indian village, where Linda plans to spend the night, then head back to her car in the morning. The heat makes hiking slow, and after a few miles, the trail becomes hard to follow. By mid-afternoon, Linda is still miles from the Supai village.
I heard sound behind me, and when I looked around, I saw that it was a mule train. And I think I had read something to the effect that that's how all the food and how their mail is transported down into this Indian reservation. The dog started barking, and I was concerned because I knew that, you know, this was the Indians' territory, and I didn't want to cause any problems, so we held up, and I let them ride on by.
But as the afternoon draws on, the trail appears endless.
As I kept walking, I noticed that the sun was starting to go down.
With the light beginning to fade, Linda knows she has to get to the Indian village before nightfall. And as she reaches the end of the trail,
There was a sign.
You can make your way down to the Supai village, and the falls are right down there.
But the sign was not well marked. I didn't know whether or not to make a right or a left.
one way leads towards the waterfalls and the safety of the Indian village. The other out into the vast wilderness of the Grand Canyon.
For some reason, I made a right-hand turn.
Thinking she's heading towards the village, Linda heads off with Koko. But after yet another hour of walking, there's still no sign of life.
At that point, I was beginning to feel that I should probably be close by.
Koko!
With night approaching, Linda knows that it's too late to go back to the junction and try the left-hand turn. She has no option but to keep going. If she doesn't make it to the Indian village before dark, she'll be stranded in the middle of nowhere.
In the canyon, nighttime comes very quickly because of the walls. It would be pitch black down there, and I wouldn't be able to see. As I kept hiking and the sun was going down, that became a major concern.
Linda's backpack weighs over 20 pounds and is slowing her down.
I knew I could make better time without it because it was beginning to feel very heavy on my back.
Ditching the backpack will mean leaving behind her sleeping bag, food, and only supply of water.
I would have nothing except, the clothes that I had on my back and a few items that I had in my purse.
With no experience of being out in the wild, Linda makes a terrible decision.
I thought I could always come back for it the following morning.
Koko!
My priority at that point in time was just to make it to the Indian reservation, make it somewhere safe before dark.
Hello!
But as night falls, Linda and Koko are just tiny specks in the vast canyon floor.
Is anybody there?
Yeah, I was totally alarmed with getting dark and not being where I needed to be. That was my realization that I wasn't on the right trail.
And with the light fading, Linda has no chance of retracing her steps to her backpack.
You start thinking about the worst sort of things that can happen
Help!
and just kind of overcome by fear.
Anybody there? Help me!
The first night was devastating. It was very, very scary. You just can't see, other than the stars that are out. There's no artificial lighting of any kind.
As the temperature on the canyon floor plummets, Linda is totally unprotected against the cold.
In my backpack, I had my sleeping bag, and I had all my food supply and my water.
In the pitch black night, it's impossible for Linda to find her backpack.
So without that, I really had nothing to protect me from the elements and nothing to sustain me.
Her only source of comfort is her best friend, her pet dog, Koko Jin.
Koko Jin just stayed by me. I was thankful to have him because we could cuddle up with one another and, he would offer some warmth. I cried off and on, I think, the entire night, just out of fear and not knowing what was going to happen to me. The next morning when the sun came up, because I had wandered around, I wasn't really sure where I was. I wasn't oriented.
During the night, Linda wandered off the trail and has now lost her bearings in the maze of the Grand Canyon Valley. She's completely stranded in 2,000 square miles of barren wilderness. Linda has no option but to keep looking for a trail that will lead her to her backpack and out of the canyon to safety. But nothing looks familiar.
As I would follow trails, they would just lead nowhere. It's very difficult to see any kind of distance because there's all these little side canyons and walls, and you're like a rat in a maze. I kept hoping that I would see someone, which I never did, or that I would see a low-flying plane, but nothing.
After hours of walking, all she can see is the relentless monotony of the canyon wilderness.
I did a lot of hollering and screaming, just hoping that someone would hear, especially, in those canyons, because noise can carry.
By mid-afternoon, the temperature in the canyon rises to over 100 degrees. And neither Linda nor Koko Jin have had a drop to drink in nearly 24 hours.
I remember it getting very, very hot. I was thirsty and I had nothing to eat or drink. My mouth was just terribly, terribly dry.
In these conditions, human beings need around 2 gallons of water a day.
My nurse's training told me that I needed to have water, that there was no way I was going to be able to survive without water. I knew I could live without food, but the water was going to be essential because it's so hot during the day down there. And I guess real fear set in at that point.
Koko, come on.
If I had been completely alone without the dog, I think I would have fallen apart.
Tired? Pretty tired right now.
I would talk to him. I'm sorry I got you into this, Koko. But we'll find our way out, you know, trying to keep positive.
But by early evening, Linda realizes she and Koko Jin are still completely lost within the vast wilderness.
I knew I was going to be down there another night. I think it was on that second night a little harder than the first night, because by that time I realized that there was something terribly wrong. I don't think that I was as hopeful in regards to finding my way out. I think I was leaning more towards the fact that maybe someone was going to have to find me. Day 3, I knew it was Monday, and I said, well, you know, I survived the weekend down here, but I still knew I had to find water.
Every year, around 4 people die of dehydration in the canyon. In this heat, Linda will be lucky to survive another day without water.
My nose and my mouth and my skin was just very, very dry.
Linda is desperate to find a water source. But in the dry and arid Grand Canyon, they are few and far between. But late on the 3rd day, she sees her first glimpse of hope.
In front of me, I could see that it was dripping. It was almost like, is it real? I wasn't certain if it was truly there. So I walked up all the way, and sure enough, it was moist, and the dog started lapping up water.
Linda has found a lifeline, a tiny desert spring.
I looked up to see where the water was coming from, and it was like 15 feet above my head, just coming out of rocks.
But the water is trickling down agonizingly slowly.
I was then thinking, well, how am I going to be able to gather up this water? And so I looked through my purse. I did have this little plastic eyeglass case. It was one of the few items that was in my purse that was of any worth to me. I thought, well, if I could get that set up in between the small rocks, Then after a period of time, I would be able to collect enough to get a cup that I could actually drink. It probably took an hour or so to maybe get like a cup of water. When your mouth is just so dry and you can barely talk, and then to have the moisture of the water and just knowing that that was going to possibly save my life, just sheer joy.
The drips supplied just enough water to allow Linda to regain her strength.
I knew that it was going to be important for me to stay there to kind of like regroup and recover a little bit, because my feet were swollen and I had blisters on them, and I was just exhausted.
Finding the tiny water supply has given Linda hope. But the next day, she looks in her diary and makes a devastating discovery.
I was due back on the 13th of August, so I knew I had at least another 10 days, a week and a half, before anyone would actually realize that I was missing.
In her last postcard home, Linda told her family she was well and having a great time. No one knows she's missing. If she's to have any chance of survival, the independent spirit that brought her here alone is going to have to get her out. Now able to collect a few mouthfuls of water, Linda decides to hike away from the spring in search of a trail out of the canyon.
My new plan was to drink as much water as I could before I would set off that day, so I would be hydrated, and then follow a trail and see where it would possibly lead to. As long as I can retrace my steps and get back to my water supply, because I knew that that was paramount.
For 5 days, Linda searches north, south, east, and west of her base. But each day ends in crushing disappointment.
I may feel up in the morning with big plans to follow a trail and hope that that would lead me out, only to be devastated that it didn't lead anywhere, and I wasn't going to get out that day.
Linda is trapped in the endless maze of the canyon, and she starts to believe she will never escape.
I was just totally depressed.
Throughout the ordeal, only her mental strength has kept her going. She has survived 12 days without food and very little water, and now her body is beginning to wither away.
It's not like the hunger you go through, like if you've missed a meal or a couple meals, where you get that gnawing sensation in your stomach. That had come and gone.
Having used up all of its fat reserves, her body is now eating itself away.
I knew that I was losing weight just the way that my clothes were hanging on me. And I had a belt that I would have to adjust every couple of days so my pants would stay up. So I knew that the lack of food was taking a toll on my body.
Without food, her meager water supply, and the companionship of Koko Jin
Come on, Coco.
are the only things keeping her alive.
Coco, no!
But when Koko knocks over 2 hours worth of carefully collected water, it's too much for Linda to bear.
Stupid dog!
I was annoyed, and I hollered at him, and he knew I was angry with him.
Frightened by her outburst, Koko disappears into the canyon.
I kind of felt guilty.
Coco!
Terrified at the prospect of being left alone without her best friend, Linda is desperate to find Koko Jin.
Coco!
But Koko Jin is nowhere to be seen.
Coco!
It gradually dawns on Linda that she might never see him again.
I thought maybe once I got back there that night, he'd be waiting there for me.
Coco!
And almost as if I had driven him away.
Coco!
And by mid-afternoon, it's clear he's gone for good.
I was devastated. My one and only companion that I had down there. I was completely alone.
After 11 freezing nights out in the wilderness, a violent storm blows into the canyon.
I built a shelter for myself in between two rocks that came out of the sand, and then I took some of the shrubbery around and built a little roof on top.
But the makeshift shelter does little to keep off the torrential rain and provides no defense against the predators lurking in the undergrowth.
As I was trying to fall asleep, I heard some rustling. I became alert and threw a handful of sand in the direction that I thought I heard the sound. And then I heard a hissing sound.
Fearful of deadly rattlesnakes hiding in the bush, Linda is forced to abandon the shelter.
It was one of the toughest nights. There was thunder and lightning and a lot of rain, and it was very frightening down there because I didn't have any shelter. I was out in the open. It was definitely cold, and definitely that was a concern, the hypothermia.
Alone, miles from civilization, Linda knows she must find the mental strength to survive.
I started to think of ways to occupy my mind, and I said a rosary, and then I started to sing songs, just something to keep me occupied, to get me through that night.
Linda has been making daily hikes away from her base to try to find a way out of the canyon. But she can only venture an hour from her water supply before thirst drives her back.
I was trying to go under some of the rock hangings in order to keep cool. It was underneath one of those rock hangings that I noticed the bottle.
The bottle is a glimmer of hope.
This was something portable that I could carry water in and go out and hike even further away from my main water source.
Linda knows that finding the bottle might just save her life. If she can fill it with water, she can travel further than ever before and maybe find a way out of her ordeal.
It was a process of hours to, get the plastic eyeglass case filled with water and transfer it into the vodka bottle.
For the first time in 13 days, Linda sees a chance of escape. With the bottle full of water, Linda leaves the camp with no intention of returning. This time, she plans to just keep on going as far as she can.
I was in a positive mood that day because I was feeling bound and determined that I was going to get out. The realization hit me that I wasn't going to just lie down and give up. I was just 25 years of age, and I had so much life to live yet. I had so much more that I wanted to experience. To give up was just, it wasn't an option at that point. My will to live was greater.
But after 2 whole days of wandering, she's still trapped on the floor of the valley, unable to see above the sheer rock faces.
I thought that if I could climb up higher on some rocks that I could get a better view and perhaps see where I needed to go.
Climbing the rocks is dangerous, but it's her only chance of being able to see a possible way out.
I risked falling and breaking an ankle or something like that. I didn't realize how weak I was because of the lack of food. My coordination wasn't as good as it normally would have been. I was looking for handholds and footholds. Plus, I had this purse hanging off me with the water bottle in it, so I was trying to be careful of that, too.
In an instant, Linda's vital water supply is gone. Now she has nothing to sustain her in the searing heat of the Grand Canyon.
I was quite upset with myself, and then thinking that, well, now what do you have? You're away from your water source, and now you've dropped the only bottle of water that you had, and kind of back to square one again. Even though I had lost the bottle of water, I was still determined to get up to the top of this rock so that I could get a better view.
But when Linda finally reaches the top of the plateau, she realizes her efforts have been in vain.
I couldn't get much better view than I really had when I was on the canyon floor. The area is just vast, just all these little side canyons, and really nothing suggesting any kind of civilization, and just numerous rock formations. Not any kind of landmarks that you could pick out.
For the first time in days, Linda discovers she's not alone in the canyon.
Seeing those wild horses, I thought, well, if there's animals down here, where are they getting their water? The other hopeful thing was that if there's horses, then maybe there would be men that were hurting them or whatever.
In the barren landscape, this sign of life gives Linda renewed faith.
I mean, you start thinking strangely, perhaps I could even get a hold of one and ride it on out of the canyon. But I realized that was probably very unrealistic because you could only get so close to them and then they would run off. So I couldn't get probably within maybe 50 feet of them, if even that.
Once more, Linda is alone. But following the horses has led her to a welcome sight.
I noticed pools of water, and I remember looking at it and seeing little insects or whatever swimming around in it, and I thought, well, I don't really have any other choice except to drink it because that's the only way I'm going to survive. The water was kind of bitter, but it was wet, and I knew it would get me through another day.
As night falls, Linda drifts in and out of consciousness and is haunted by nightmares and fear.
I had started having dreams of animals coming and eating out my eyes.
Now seriously malnourished, Linda is starting to fantasize about an end to her hunger.
I began thinking about food quite a bit. And so I would kind of just sit there on a rock, you know, and think about dinner menus, writing those out in my journal. Spare ribs and potatoes au gratin, tossed salad, and cauliflower with hollandaise sauce. So kind of vicariously, I was eating through my menus that I would write. I was sitting there resting, and I decided that I was gonna brush my hair. For what purpose, I wasn't sure.
Almost 3 weeks after getting lost, Linda finally hears the sound she's been yearning for.
I can hear the wings going around, and I knew it was close.
Back in Pittsburgh, when Linda fails to arrive at work, her family finally realizes she's missing, and prompted by the postcard she sent them, they've triggered an aerial search of the canyon. It seems her ordeal is finally over. But Linda is impossible to see from the air.
It was devastating that they didn't see me, but I could figure out why.
Linda realizes that if she can't be seen from the air in the vast canyon, the chances are she'll never be found. Linda's brother and sister-in-law have now joined the search. But when they arrive at the campsite that Linda began her hike from, they're greeted with a sight that fills them with foreboding.
That's her car, right?
Yeah.
Linda's car has been broken into, but is still exactly where she left it almost 3 weeks ago.
We were told that there was virtually no chance that Linda would be alive if she were lost in the canyons. There wasn't much chance we could even find her body. We were on a gruesome kind of mission. The scary part was that all the canyons look the same, and they're not marked by anything except for an occasional old wooden sign.
They arrive at the same sign where Linda mistakenly turned right and out into the wilderness.
Which way do you think?
I don't know. Will I canyon? This way. Maybe.
Linda's brother and sister-in-law turn left towards the Supai village and away from where Linda remains stranded in the canyon.
I was afraid for Linda. The chance of survival after being lost in a place like that just seems so remote.
Mentally and physically exhausted and dangerously dehydrated, Linda finally gives up all hope of ever getting out alive. Now, death is her only way out.
My priority was to find a place where I could just fall asleep and then hopefully die in my sleep. I thought, this is probably going to be it. I remember lying down and thinking, if I could maybe just die in my sleep, that would be the most peaceful way to go. I thought, you know, if I don't make it out of here, my parents will never really know what happened. My mother had lost a brother, her baby brother. And, you know, here's a woman that had gone through a lot of trauma in her younger years. And to me, that was kind of devastating to think that they would be going through that.
After 19 days, battling to stay alive, Linda finally gives up.
I heard voices. And it was almost like, is it a figment of my imagination or is it for real?
Four Native Americans from the local village had noticed footprints in an area where tourists don't venture, and using traditional tracking methods, have managed to locate Linda in the vast canyon.
You could tell by the looks on their faces that they were kind of amazed to find me alive. It was just joyous.
And waiting for her in the nearby Indian village are her brother and sister-in-law.
She looked wonderful and she looked horrible. She was skeletal looking and she was the color of bricks from the canyon soil.
It was just very emotional. It was the best feeling in the world.
The three of us just grabbed each other and put our heads together and just howled, really. You know, the tears just flowed.
But then, for Linda, the best surprise of all. The locals have also found Koko Jin, wandering lost amidst the canyon.
That was a happy reunion, too. Yeah, I was very happy. There was a lot of things that I didn't do correctly, a lot of things, and I, to this day, can't figure out why. With all the big mistakes that I made, you know, how I was able to survive.
Despite her ordeal, Linda made a full recovery and went on to get married and raise a family.
I just didn't think it was my time to go. And that stayed with me, and the persistence and the will, the strong will to survive.
When a plane carrying a newlywed couple crashes into a mountain, the survivors are left stranded in remote rainforest.
We didn't belong there. It's horrifying.
To stay alive, they must battle the hostile environment.
You just couldn't stop your body from shaking.
Risk all to get help.
What goes through your head is that you're not going to live through this.
And keep a grip on their own sanity.
We were all injured, we were all exhausted. There was no hope left.
Where's Michael? Michael! You're not gonna come in?
No. Why not? Fine.
College sweethearts, Brandon and Brandy Wiley, have come to Costa Rica in search of travel and adventure. They've been planning this trip since they married 6 months ago.
I met Brandy in 7th grade, and she moved away to another high school, and then we reunited in college and began to date.
Can I get 2 orange juices?
He was very adventurous, very independent. I think what attracted me to him was the adventurous side of him, that he kind of took me out of my box a little bit.
Hey, Mom.
We had basically sold everything that we had owned and moved on to just travel. I think what was attractive most to us was the fact of the unknown, the fact that we could just pack our bare essentials and X amount of money and see what happens.
Their adventure starts with a 100-mile flight to a small town on the edge of the Corcovado National Park.
Have fun, guys.
But getting there means a 30-minute journey on a small aircraft. Something Brandy is dreading.
See, it's not so bad, is it?
I guess not. Flying was something that I did not like to do. I remember it being a little scary because it was just a little puddle jumper. It wasn't tall enough for you to stand up straight. It was really small. It was really small.
No, it's in the front row. Come on, it'd be really cool. We can sit at the cockpit.
No, let's just sit one seat behind. Brandon said, "Hey, babe, let's go sit in the front row." I think because of my fear, I said, "No, let's just sit one seat behind." So we sat in the second row.
There are 6 passengers on today's flight. Last to board is American expat Michael Packard, who lives in Costa Rica and regularly takes this trip.
How you doing?
Hey, I'm Michael.
Brandon.
Brandon?
Nice to meet you.
Randy? I've done the flight so many times that I was just looking forward to reading my book and getting back to town.
For me, taking off is scary.
It's gonna be okay, baby.
So I remember just concentrating on being still and just being calm and breathing.
Costa Rica is a small country that is both densely forested and very mountainous. If visibility is poor, low-level flying can be extremely dangerous. And clouds are gathering.
When I look out of the window and I see clouds, that's a little frightening to me.
Fine, okay?
I don't particularly like flying up there because it is a rough ride sometimes. They are small planes.
But on this flight, Michael sees something out of the ordinary.
I noticed the 2 pilots conferring with each other, looking a little concerned, and I realized what they were doing was looking at coordinates in these books, trying to pinpoint their position because they weren't sure where they were.
The plane has basic navigation equipment on board, but the pilots are relying on charts and maps to reach their destination. But now they're flying in dense cloud and almost zero visibility. They're unaware that they're already off course and heading for a mountain.
clouds are getting very dark.
It's fine.
Brandy said, look how thick these clouds are. And so I looked outside of our window, and it got darker and darker.
It's horrifying. That was my ultimate fear coming true.
What goes through your head is the fact that you're not gonna live through this.
You're headed for the mountain. You're headed for the mountain to die.
I remember thinking, we're not flying anymore. We're going through the trees. Is this even happening?
My stomach dropped. My mind just went blank.
To hear things break apart, just the sound that it makes is unbelievable.
My first thought was, you're not getting out of this.
I wake up and it's freezing cold, and my entire body was soaked in jet fuel. I was in a plane on vacation, and now I'm in a black hole that I can't move my legs, and it's blood just everywhere. Brandy was head to toe blood. And I remember thinking, oh my God. Brandy! 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 Wake up! Can you hear me? Brandy! Wake up, Brandy! Brandy, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
My first memory was Brandon talking to me.
Brandy, listen to me. You gotta get out of here. We're covered in jet fuel. Oh my God. Get your belt, your seatbelt. Let's go.
I remember feeling completely panicked and completely in disarray.
Hurry, go! Get away from the plane!
Outside the plane, Brandy is horrified by the devastation of the wreckage and the bodies of the two pilots.
Trees were knocked down. There was a mess of plane parts, wires. There's smoke everywhere. There's people wandering around. There's people that are dead. How could this have happened? How could the pilots have let this happen?
German Silke Freebold and Costa Rican Alvaro Zuniga have also survived the crash. But the danger is far from over. Leaking fuel is soaking the wreckage, and Brandon is trapped inside.
Brandon! Get out of the plane! It's on fire!
I just remember having something on my legs.
Brandon is pinned under the body of a dead passenger, Costa Rican Adolfo Strasburger.
Hurry up, Brandon!
Go! Get away from the plane! Get away from the plane!
Quick! away from the plane!
The survivors need to get a safe distance from leaking fuel. But in severe pain from extensive burns, Alvaro is unable to move.
Come on, we gotta get away from the plane! Come on!
Now able to take in the extent of the wreckage, Brandon and Brandy realize just how lucky they are to be alive.
The wings were ripped off, and the fuselage was turned upside down, and from the seat in front of us, the plane was completely dismantled.
Hey, let's sit in the front.
Oh, let's just sit one seat behind.
By total chance, Brandy's request that they sit in the second row has saved their lives.
I just remember thinking, there's no reason and no way that we should be alive right now. If anyone were to be sitting in that front row, they would have been killed. We should have died. No rhyme or reason about it. It wasn't our time.
Baby.
Brandon is bloodied and battered. As a trained nurse, Brandy instinctively takes action.
My wife went to school to be a nurse. It was just intuitive that she had known what to do.
He had broken all the bones around his eye, and his face was swollen.
He also has deep cuts on his arms that are bleeding heavily.
Okay, it's okay, sorry.
Silke is relatively unhurt, but appears traumatized by the death of her friend Adolfo.
It's okay, sweetie. I'm a nurse, all right? What's your name? Silke.
Silke was not in a good place. She was psychologically pretty messed up. I mean, she had been conscious the whole plane crash.
I saw the whole thing.
I was really worried about her mentally.
Suddenly, Brandon remembers there had been 6 passengers on the flight. 1 is dead in the plane, and 4 have survived. So someone is missing.
I'm Michael. Brandon. Where's Michael?
The next thing that I remember is that I woke up on my back, looking up at the sky and the trees. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I was just in a plane crash. And I'm alive. I remember just thinking about where I was, about where the plane was, because I didn't see anything around me except for trees.
The sheer violence of the crash has thrown Michael Packard's body some 200 feet from the plane. Adrenaline floods through him. He's unaware of just how seriously he's injured.
I was in shock, so I really didn't feel the pain yet.
Michael has a severed Achilles tendon and a crushed eye socket. He has 4 cracked ribs and a punctured lung. It's a miracle he's alive, but he'll need an even greater miracle to survive.
All of a sudden, I heard voices. And I started to make my way towards the voices the best that I could.
He's here. We got you, man. It's okay.
I'm just happy there was somebody else to go through that with. Because I knew it was going to be tough.
Michael, I'm a nurse.
Put your weight on me. It's okay.
All right, Michael, look at me. Okay, I'm a nurse. I'm just gonna check you.
Brandy instantly recognizes that Michael is in serious trouble.
He didn't look right. He was pale, really dehydrated. His eye was sunken in. He worried me the most.
Brandy is concerned that he may have internal bleeding, which, untreated, could kill him within hours. But imminent rescue is unlikely. They've crashed miles off their original course and are totally lost in Costa Rica's 10,000 square miles of impenetrable rainforest. And with both Michael and Alvaro seriously injured, the clock is ticking.
Okay, really hard.
I could hear radios. I'm not even sure if it was Spanish that I was hearing or what it was, but it was definitely a transmission.
It's the plane's radio. Their only link to the outside world, and the only way to get the message out that they've survived. But returning to the fuel-soaked wreckage is a massive gamble.
So I'm thinking, what are you gonna do? Flip a switch and have the whole thing blow up? We're stuck in the middle of nowhere. We've got to find something.
Stay here. I'll be back.
Brandon, I don't know. You should go.
It was a lifeline, but I was terrified that the plane would blow up. Absolutely.
Brandon! Be quick, okay?
I had to get up over the pilot and more fuel and more glass and more metal.
Hello. Hello, hello.
Is it working?
It's dead.
What?
It's dead.
It was devastating. There's nothing we can do. We're in dense jungle. The only people that could give us any type of guidance were the pilots, and they were dead.
It's rainy season in the jungle. And while the downpour douses the fuel-soaked plane, it quickly becomes a deluge.
The rain was just insult to injury at that point, you know? It was just torrential downpour.
We were thankful that the rain was finally going to put out the fire and drench all the fuel and drench everything, drench the wires, get everything just wet so that there wasn't that fear of an explosion or more fire.
You need to get Michael water.
The rain has finally allowed them to give a desperately dehydrated Michael a drink.
Michael? Hey, we're gonna get you
some water, right? You lean back on me.
Listen, Michael. Hey, listen, Michael, you're dehydrated, okay?
Put your head back.
Gotta drink.
Put your head back.
This water, okay? You're dehydrated. Hey, Michael, listen.
And with the rain, the temperature drops fast.
It was dark, it was cold, it was wet. I knew that we were in dire straits. And the jungle was taking over.
Despite his injuries, Brandon knows that if they're to survive, someone needs to take charge.
Listen, I know your face is broken apart and your nose is broken and your friends have their ribs are broken. And why don't you figure something out to do about this?
The only available shelter is in the wreckage of the plane. Brandon decides to move Alvaro and Michael in first, as they are the most injured and at serious risk of hypothermia. For Alvaro, the pain from the severe burns he suffered in the crash makes any movement agony.
Once they were laid down in there, there was basically no more room for anyone else.
I remember after they put me in there looking out at them and how miserable they looked and how cold and shivering they were. I did feel a sense of guilt, but I also knew that they put me in there for a reason. I could see my condition was deteriorating.
It was a deep, deep feeling of depression. We were still cold and we were still scared and we still had no idea what to do.
Listen! Guys, listen!
A rescue helicopter has been sent to search for the missing plane. But the crew can't pinpoint its location, as the plane's emergency beacon has failed. By pure chance, the helicopter is flying directly over the wreckage.
It was a great feeling. We knew then they were looking for us.
I started thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna make it out of here.
But in the thick rainforest canopy and dense cloud, the wreckage is invisible. The smashed plane and the survivors have been entirely swallowed by the jungle.
They were right above us and they can't see us. That was my lowest point.
They're lost in thousands of square miles of jungle, with no beacon to transmit their location. If they can't be seen from the air, they may never be found at all.
I remember thinking we have absolutely no chance of being seen now. None.
The light is fading, and with it comes a whole new set of dangers. Far from their comfortable urban lifestyles, the 5 survivors are completely out of their depth.
I live in a city. I go to an office, you know? I'm not a crocodile hunter. So, yeah, I was a fish out of water from the time I got there.
But Brandon is determined to do what little he can to look after his new wife and the rest of the survivors.
Brandy, we're gonna have to find a place to stay tonight. Try to get warm.
Brandon was for sure taking care of me. He was probably the most selfless one there, trying to take care of everybody else except himself.
Silka. Hey, Silka. Come on, I need your help.
Luggage was scattered for the full 200 yards of the wreck site.
So how are you holding up?
I'm doing okay. Just wish I hadn't seen everything, you know?
Yeah, you can imagine.
Hey, look, it's my stuff.
Try and get as much of it as you can.
She had purchased a lot of sarongs in Bali to go back and sell in her shop. So we got all those to tie off other people's wounds, to keep some people somewhat warm, gathered all the clothes that we possibly could.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay. You okay?
Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah.
Let's go. Come on. Wait.
Wait.
The jungle has closed in around them.
No, I thought it was this way.
With no landmarks and no reference points, it's impossible to tell which way is which.
No, wait. It's not it. Come on.
It was amazing to me that we might have walked not even 50 yards, and the plane itself was entirely gone.
I don't know.
It all looks the same.
I think we're in trouble.
It's a dangerous situation. If they head off in the wrong direction, they could be lost forever.
Hey!
Brandy!
Hey!
Brandy! Brandy!
Brandon! Where are you? Brandon!
Brandy!
I'm here!
There. Over here. Brandy!
You keep shouting.
Brandy!
Where are you?
It's a close call. Had they been separated from the group, Brandon and Silka would have had an even slimmer chance of survival.
It was extremely scary to see how fast the jungle could swallow up an entire plane, 5 people, all the wreckage.
Back in the wrecked fuselage, Michael's 4 fractured ribs move and grind with every breath. Alvaro can see he's struggling and does his best to keep his spirits up.
Alvaro had kept saying to me, "It's okay, Michael."
We will be rescued tomorrow. You'll be okay.
And I was amazed by him trying to console me, even through all his pain.
To make matters worse, Michael is now breathing on only one lung. The other has collapsed.
My chest was just in so much pain I couldn't breathe. I was definitely thinking about whether I was going to make it through the night. I knew it was going to be probably the longest night of my life, and I wasn't looking forward to it.
You gotta keep warm, okay?
As darkness descends, Brandy is concerned that Michael won't survive the night.
I thought the clock was ticking for all of us, but I thought Michael would be the first one to die if we weren't found.
She knows that any rescue efforts will be put on hold until the daylight hours.
Now, we really have to live this out. I just remember feeling just this sense of overwhelming doom.
With night comes the cold. High on a jungle-covered mountain, there's no way of drying off, and any warmth is quickly drained from their bodies.
Silka, over here with us.
She's in shock. She just wants to be alone.
I've never been in cold like that. There was nothing that could stop your whole body from shaking.
It was a brutal night. It was freezing. We were scared.
In the dark of night, it's dangerous predators that prey on their minds.
I can remember smelling blood, having blood all over all of us. I knew the smell of blood, we're gonna attract something.
The smell of jet fuel smells so distinct, but the smell of blood is even more distinct, and you would smell it above everything.
What the hell was that?
It's just a howler monkey. Listen,
You're scared every second of that night.
In the pitch-black jungle night, every sound becomes a potential deadly threat.
A different sense of panic set in.
Suddenly, something moves just feet away in the undergrowth.
I remember hearing the rattling of leaves, and it seemed to be getting closer and closer.
Brandon!
what?
We realize that it is something walking around.
They've no idea what it is, but their imagination tells them what it could be.
Our adrenaline was out of control at this point.
When it came near, we would yell something out, it would stop.
What is it?
Michael! Alvaro, get as far back into plane as you can!
Michael was bloody enough to be a target, and Alvaro was absolutely immobile.
Whatever the animal was, it moves on. But there are still hours until daylight. Michael is increasingly weak, and Brandon is desperate to stop him falling unconscious. A clear sign that Michael's brain is shutting down, and his injuries are pushing him closer to death.
He was just in really bad shape, and I would yell out to him.
Michael!
Michael? Are you awake?
Michael! Yes! He's awake.
Okay, just checking in, buddy.
I think I definitely aggravated him as the night went on, but it's better than losing his consciousness.
Michael!
They wouldn't let me sleep and kept yelling to me. Michael, are you there? You awake? Michael, Michael, all night long. I knew it was right, but I wasn't wanting to listen. And I was getting almost mad. Just leave me alone. Just let me sleep.
In the cold light of dawn, Brandon and Brandy know that time is running out. Michael has made it through the night, but his body is increasingly starved of oxygen. His breathing is shallow, and he looks like he's dying.
There you go, buddy. Hang in there, Michael. Okay?
I think we would have lost him in another day.
It was like, how are we going to get through this day? It was a paralyzing feeling of what to do next.
They've been missing for 18 hours. They've crashed in remote jungle, and there's no sign of help.
We had given up hope for rescue. We thought if we're gonna stay alive, it's gonna be because of us.
Okay.
We can't sit here any longer. So we're on a mountain. There's a valley below. Why don't we go down there, see if we can find a river to follow?
By leaving, they risk getting lost, with no guarantee of finding their way back. But they must take action. If they do nothing, Brandon knows Michael will not survive the day.
To be forced to come up with the answers that are going to make you survive or not is something that I wouldn't probably wish on anyone.
I think we should go. We all need help pretty bad. I can just stay here and watch us die.
We had no other choice. We had to do something. You have to take that risk, or else you're all gonna be dead.
Michael, we're gonna go out, okay? See what we can find.
Michael fears that if they're left behind, he and Alvaro will die.
He kept saying, "Don't leave us. Please don't leave us."
I didn't want to be left alone because I thought if they got lost, they wouldn't be able to find their way back.
I felt bad leaving them, but I also knew there was nothing more we could do for Michael or Alvaro. And there was no good in us just sitting there looking at each other and not doing anything.
It could have worked out. It could have been completely catastrophic.
I remember when they left, I had this lonely, empty feeling.
The others have set off in search of rescue, leaving Michael and Alvaro helpless and alone.
I was incapable of taking care of myself, and Alvaro was also incapable of taking care of himself.
Within minutes of leaving the crash site, the three realize the difficulty of the task ahead of them. Injured, dehydrated, and hungry, they're wandering directionless in one of the toughest environments on the planet.
You're getting hot, you're getting sweaty, you're getting aggravated because you haven't slept all night, and you're hurt, and you can't walk.
Brendan, are you okay?
I'm okay.
So not only were we falling down, but there were thorns in the side of bushes that were 2.5, 3 inches thick.
After an hour of forcing their way through the impossibly thick jungle, the group can go no further. It's becoming clear that they have made a terrible mistake.
It's a pretty devastating feeling when you know you've made the wrong decision and there's nothing you can do about it.
They've become totally lost. They can't go forward, and they don't know their way back.
I knew that we were in dire straits. This is gonna end up how it ends up. Period. There's nothing we can do at this point. There's nothing we can do to help ourselves. There's nothing we can do to help anyone else involved here. I was terrified that we were done.
The survivors lived through a terrible plane crash. But lost, alone and defenseless, it's the unforgiving jungle that will kill them.
I had lost all hope. We were all injured, we were all exhausted, we didn't know where we were going. There was no hope left.
At the crash site, Alvaro, immobilized by his burns, can only look on as Michael barely clings to life. His collapsed lung makes it agonizing to breathe. His blood pressure has plunged, and this could trigger a fatal cardiac arrest.
It was miserable. I was definitely on a downward spiral. If I didn't get rescued soon, I could only last so long in this condition.
Michael has lost all hope of rescue and resigns himself to death in the jungle.
I heard voices yelling. And all of a sudden, this man appears out of the jungle.
Are you all right? Over here! Over here! You're safe now.
An army of Red Cross volunteers has been combing the area for 24 hours and has finally found the crash site.
I just started crying, and it was the most emotional period. I couldn't believe it.
What was that?
For the others, believing they're lost forever, a miraculous stroke of luck saves their lives.
Just like in Indiana Jones, the guy comes through the fields and he has a machete and a backpack.
Against all odds, a local farmer and member of the search team literally stumbles upon them.
It was the most incredible feeling I've ever had. It was just pure joy.
Oye, este es Marvin.
It was complete elation. I remember sitting down and thinking, this is unbelievable.
Rescued from the Costa Rican jungle, Silke, Alvaro, and Michael made a full recovery.
I think it was just luck that I survived. I have a beautiful family. I have 2 beautiful sons. When things get tough, hey, You're just lucky you're here.
Brandon and Brandy's injuries healed, and they returned to America. They're still happily married and have 2 young children.
You can't go through something like that and not be closer. I was with my husband, he was my family, and he was right next to me, taking care of me.
I am definitely happy to be here. I'm happy to have a second chance. And I'm happy to have my wife and 2 beautiful little kids that remind me every day of the reason that I'm probably here.
When 2 best friends attempt the most challenging climb of their lives,
there's always that fear, you know, that something's going to happen, something's going to go wrong.
a violent storm hits the French Alps, turning adventure into a desperate fight for survival.
I've never experienced anything like it.
In the worst weather for almost a century, they're trapped for days on a narrow ridge with no hope of rescue.
There was now no way either of us was getting off this mountain alive.
Isolated and ravaged by frostbite.
My hands were like pieces of frozen meat.
Death is only hours away.
I just closed my eyes. That was the time I expected to die.
Gonna win that.
Jamie Fisher and his best friend Jamie Andrew are on holiday with friends in the French Alps.
Right, loser? Shut up. You didn't honestly think you were gonna beat me, did you?
Since they first met at college 8 years ago, they've been inseparable, with a shared passion for mountaineering.
Jamie was much more outgoing and extreme than me, but you know, I quickly realized that he was a kindred spirit. He had an equal enthusiasm and very raw passion for the mountains.
The holiday is supposed to be a lot of R&R, snowboarding, skiing, and hanging out.
What do you reckon, Jamie? Jamie?
But on the first day, Jamie Fisher gets the itch to go climbing.
Check it out, mate.
Their ski resort is at the foot of one of the greatest climbs in the French Alps, the north face of Les Droites.
Jamie, I know, but I'm supposed to be on holiday with my girlfriend.
You're not looking. It's the north face of Les Droites we're talking about, which we agreed we'd do, huh?
The north face of Les Droites is a treacherous climb. But it's exactly the kind of challenge Jamie Fisher relishes.
What do you reckon?
Jamie was really a true mountaineer. That was his big calling in life. He often seemed to think about nothing else.
So basically, we'll overnight at Le Grand Montet in order to get an early start in the morning. 3-hour brisk walk, we're at the foot of the face.
Okay.
Jamie Fisher is determined not to let this opportunity pass. But first, he has to persuade his best friend.
We got a week of this window. Perfect weather.
A week?
A week. There's no reason why we can't tick this off. You won't even know we're gone. We'll be back before you know it.
It would have been very nice to just spend the whole week on the slopes, skiing, snowboarding, having fun, just being with our friends. But both of us knew that we had something within us deeper that was driving us to do more.
You know, you're really going to get him into trouble one of these days, Jamie.
And? Cheers.
Cheers. Salut.
Le droit.
Le droit.
Once the decision was made, Jamie and I were set. We were going.
The two Jamies take the cable car to the top station, 10,000 feet up the mountain. They'll spend the night there to get a head start in the morning.
I certainly was getting very nervous about it by now. You know, even with all the experience I had under my belt, you know, you always get nervous before a big climb. And I always find I reach this stage in the night where I kind of wish that there's a big storm going to come in and I can call the whole thing off. I remember opening my eyes and seeing Jamie pacing about. He'd obviously not been able to sleep either, and he'd got up and was wandering about.
Come on, Sleeping Beauty. Time to go.
Just give me a minute, okay?
Come on, stop whinging. Get ready.
Okay, I'm up.
The next day, the two Jamies set off to begin their climb of Les Droites.
It was a long, hard trudge up the glacier. Jamie was much more up for it that morning, and I was feeling pretty ropey with the altitude and general nerves. And I could hear him singing to himself as he trudged through the snow.
Anyone ever told you got a really lovely singing voice, Jay?
Yeah, they told me I got a beautiful voice.
He could sometimes be frustrating, but, you know, he was great company.
When they arrive at the foot of the vast ice face that leads to the summit, they get their first sighting of the awesome challenge ahead.
It is a 1,000-meter unbroken face of rock and ice. So it was pretty scary, but also, you know, really got our adrenaline going, I think.
Got a coin?
Yeah. There you go.
Heads or tails?
Heads.
Tails! I'm on it.
And that moment, when you're actually on the climb, it's as if all that nervous energy just disappears. It just dissolves into the sheer joy of the climbing itself.
In midwinter, the weather in the Alps can change in an instant. But today, the two men have ideal conditions for their climb.
How's it looking out there?
Great, mate! The ice is absolutely perfect!
Scaling Les Droites is a 2-day climb. And as dusk falls on the first afternoon, the two friends find a ledge to rest up for the night.
Well, mate? Yeah.
You don't expect great luxury in these circumstances. You don't expect 3-star hotels, but we were pretty happy with that.
Your room will be ready in a sec, Mr. Andrews.
Oh, thank you very much.
You know, being able to get into our sleeping bags, to get lying down, to get hot drink, that was good enough for us.
Good day, huh?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
It will crack it for sure tomorrow.
Yeah.
We were both feeling elated. We were bang on target at that stage. We were exactly halfway, which was what we'd hoped.
As dawn breaks, the two men set off on the final ascent to the summit. sheer vertical ice face, one of the toughest climbs in the Alps.
There's no ledges on the face where you can take a break. And so it is very tiring on your calves, your calf muscles. Essentially, you're standing on your tippy toes all day. By about lunchtime on that second day, we were feeling pretty confident at that stage. We were feeling that, you know, we were going to reach the top within a few hours.
They make great progress. But 800 feet from the summit, conditions suddenly change.
I don't like the look of those clouds, mate!
It had been perfectly clear the 1 minute. The next minute we looked up and there were these clouds rolling over the summit ridge of the mountain. We realized that this was a pretty serious storm that was coming in. It wasn't long before the snow started falling. It just became phenomenal. It very quickly became very, very heavy indeed.
In just a matter of minutes, the two climbers have been slammed by a vicious alpine blizzard.
But we weren't too worried at this stage. You don't expect to be able to climb a mountain face like that without encountering some bad weather.
But far from blowing over, the storm rapidly intensifies.
I've never experienced anything like it. It was just piling down onto our backs and rucksacks. You know, literally faster than we could shake it off. It was just incredible.
Then suddenly, the fresh snow triggers the thing climbers fear most. Mountain avalanches.
You just have to hold onto your ice axes as tightly as possible, just close your eyes and hope for this avalanche to pass. It was horrendous climbing in those conditions. It was just really, really, really hard.
The two friends are now clinging to the side of the mountain, knowing every step could be their last.
It became a job of survival. There were great periods of time when we couldn't see each other. It was just impossible climbing in such horrendous conditions. So it was pretty tough.
They now face a life or death decision.
Jamie! Woo! This is something, huh? Yeah, but what do we do?
Abandoning their climb would mean descending the 3,000 feet of treacherous ice below them.
To attempt to descend the very difficult and dangerous climbing that we'd done already in those conditions had been, you know, almost suicidal.
Not going down in this, mate! Head for the closest pass, near the summit!
Their only option is to keep on climbing through the blizzard.
If we could reach the summit ridge, we would be safe from the avalanches. We could dig ourselves in and then just wait for the storm to pass.
The two friends battle on, but it's desperately slow progress.
By the time it was starting to get dark, suddenly one of the bolts on my right ice axe started to work loose.
Jamie needs both of his axes. They're his only way of scaling the ice face. He has to carry on and pray the axe head won't come off.
We were really reduced to a snail's pace now. The climbing was so much more arduous and fatiguing, and of course frightening.
In the raging blizzard, and with a broken ice axe, the two Jamies know that what began as an exciting adventure has turned into a potentially deadly climb.
I was beginning to think that we would never reach the top. It just seemed to be going on and on forever.
Jamie!
But it was Jamie who suddenly let out this yell.
I'm found somewhere!
And I knew from his tone that this was it. He'd made it. He was at the top. Suddenly, both there we were on the top, on the summit ridge. And that was great. That was fantastic.
At the summit, the two Jamies can finally rest and wait for the storm to subside. But the ridge is just a sliver of ice, 3 feet wide by 5 feet long, with sheer drops of over 1,000 feet on either side.
The place where we arrived was really a knife edge of snow and ice.
Jesus Christ, Jamie, we can't stay here! It'll be fine! It's only for the night! The storm can't keep up!
We were completely exposed to the elements. There was no protection whatsoever from the snow and from the wind and from these massive drops to either side of us. So it was a pretty hair-raising place to have to spend the night.
They get into their bivvies, water and windproof bags used for emergency shelter. It's their only protection from the storm.
We'd eaten most of the food that we'd brought with us. We still had a couple of packets of biscuits and some chocolate bars. That's basically what we had left. Our more immediate concern was water. It was too precarious to light the stove, to melt snow for water.
They'll only survive a short time without water. Their hope is that the storm will pass.
Jamie and I had been on many mountaineering adventures together, but this was looking like being the most frightening to date.
All the two men can do is hunker down, knowing that one careless move will send them 1,000 feet to their deaths.
Now it was just a case of surviving the night and waiting for the storm to pass.
But as the night wears on, far from abating, the mountain blizzard intensifies.
It did start into our heads that we couldn't survive this indefinitely. And we started to think maybe this storm's never going to pass.
By morning, there's still no let-up in the weather.
The storm, if anything, it only got worse. Because the snow is now accompanied by this powerful wind. That was bringing with it, much lower temperatures and much more unpleasant conditions.
This isn't good! What do we do? Stay put! What? Wait for the storm to die down! We can't go anywhere in this!
It didn't take us long to decide that it would be lethal trying to head off down the mountain in those conditions. The same physically demanding situation as yesterday, but with very much more dangerous avalanche risk. So we were effectively trapped.
Unable to move in the sub-zero conditions, their body temperatures are beginning to drop, and they desperately need food to keep them warm.
What have you got? What? Food! What food have you got?
We basically had nothing left in the rucksack except for a packet of dry biscuits. Have you ever tried eating dry biscuits without liquid? You just simply can't.
But it's too windy to light their stove and melt ice for water.
And you can't just eat the snow. If you try, you'd soon just chill yourself down completely. It just doesn't work. It's ironic, really, that we were completely surrounded by snow, and yet we had nothing to drink.
Hour after hour, the blizzard batters the two climbers, and they discuss what should be their next move.
I don't want to rescue! Are you kidding me? Think what our mates will say if we get rescued! I don't want a rescue! You crazy? What are we going to say to the Costa pilot, Jamie? Sorry, mate, we don't want to leave! I'll have to leave my gear! I'm not leaving my gear!
I remember Jamie saying, well, we can't be rescued. If they rescue us off the mountain, we'll have to leave our kit behind, and I can't afford to lose my kit.
Well, bloody hell, Jamie! Most of it's my kit anyway!
That just demonstrates how stubborn I think he was. At this stage, more than anything else, we just wanted to be off the mountain, but we were still very hopeful that we'd get down without any issues the next morning.
Down in the valley, their friends know they're missing. But in these conditions, a rescue mission is far too dangerous.
The snow carried on falling and falling and falling. And the wind blew. When we realised that we were going to be spending another night there, that was a pretty grim prospect. We were just so uncomfortable, you can't move at all.
It's the two friends' second night in the freezing cold. They've had nothing to eat or drink for 24 hours. And on their narrow ridge, less than 3 feet wide, they can't even afford the comfort of sleep.
If we'd relaxed, we'd just have slipped off this ledge and fallen off the edge of the mountain. So you have to stay awake the whole time.
By the next morning, there's still no let-up in the storm.
Hour by hour, our physical condition was deteriorating. So that pretty soon we needed to get off this mountain. We needed to get moving.
We can't keep lying here! So what do we do?
Sometime during the early morning, Jamie said, let's just go, let's give it a go, let's try and get down.
We should try and go down! It's better than freezing! Well, we're safe here when the weather changes. It might never clear! Come on! Let's get out of here!
We emerged from the sleeping bags for the first time in days out into the full teeth of the gale itself.
But the blizzard winds are fiercer than they realize.
When the snow just blowing into every crevice and in every corner, you can't do anything. You just can't. You can't function.
This is crazy! Let's go back in!
We very quickly realised that this was hopeless.
With escape from the ledge impossible, the two friends now realise they have no option but to wait and hope that the weather will turn before they freeze to death.
It did start into our heads that we couldn't survive this indefinitely. It was difficult not to just to slip into depression and desperation.
And just when it seems things can't get any worse,
Emergency! What?
I was just slumbering in my sleeping bag when suddenly I heard this shout from the other baby bag, and I thought something terrible had happened.
Is this an emergency? Well, I suppose so, yeah!
All of a sudden, in the middle of the morning, he remembered that he had his extra emergency reserves of a bar of Kendal mint cake. This Kendal mint cake that his granny ceremoniously gave him each year to store in his rucksack. And before I knew it, he pulled this thing out with a flourish. It was just brilliant. It was just, you know, a real high point of the day.
You can't beat a bit of Kendal mint cake, huh? Good old granny!
the sugar rush of the mint cake helped lift their spirits. It's vital they keep themselves mentally as well as physically together if they're to pull through.
We never let ourselves be overrun by morbid thoughts. You know, we always try just to keep ourselves going, keep each other buoyed up.
Oh no! What?
At one point, Jamie looked at his watch and cursed and pointed out that he'd missed his flight home.
I missed my plane home! Are the tickets non-refundable?
We never let ourselves be overrun by morbid thoughts. But it was difficult sometimes just to keep your mood going. The human will for survival is very, very strong, and certainly was in both of us, so we were determined. You know, there's no way we were giving up. But with every hour that passed, I think, yeah, our optimism faded.
That night, the temperature at the summit reaches -10 Fahrenheit, with the wind chill making it closer to a freezing -22.
Our physical condition was really deteriorating, and Jamie in particular I knew was really getting quite cold now.
Are you awake? What's wrong? I'm really cold, mate. I think we should get in one bag.
It's Jamie Fisher's first sign of vulnerability since the climb began.
Check it out, mate.
Nails!
I'm on it.
I knew that Jamie wouldn't ask for that kind of help unless he really needed it.
Yeah, okay, yeah, good idea. Let's get to your bag, it's bigger, okay? Okay.
Jamie knows his best friend is desperate, and that he must get into his sleeping bag to keep him from freezing. But on the tiny ledge, every move is racked with danger.
Okay, I'm gonna get into your bivvy, all right?
So it was really awkward trying to wriggle into this tiny bag. Both of us were slipping about all over the place and losing perches. And then suddenly...
Jamie, I'm slipping! Jamie! Jamie!
I was sliding, and I couldn't stop myself. I tried to reach out to grab something. You're just falling in the blackness of the night. And you know, my heart was in my mouth.
Jamie is saved by his climber's rope attached to his waist. But he's now left dangling above a 3,000-foot precipice.
Jamie! Climber! Jesus Christ, help me, Jamie! Calm down!
His friend can do nothing to help him.
You gotta climb the rope! I can't do it! You can! Keep calm! It's okay! You've gotta climb up!
Jamie's only way out is to pull his own body weight back up the rope as the storm rages around him.
But the rope was cold and icy and really quite thin.
Exhausted from 3 days without food, water or sleep, every inch of the climb is torture. And halfway back up the rope,
And I remember plunging back down to where I'd started from.
Jamie! I'm stuck, Jamie! I'm stuck! Calm down! You just gotta climb the rope!
And so the next time, with a monumental effort, I pulled myself up this rope and landed myself with a great heave back onto the ledge. It was a big fright. But I guess I also realized that really all we had to do now was just stay where we were and survive. And eventually a rescue would be able to get us off there.
all they can do is try to keep each other warm in the minus 22-degree temperatures and pray that the storm passes.
We would spend the night just waiting for the first light of dawn, because it was only the dawn that could ever bring a hope.
But the next day, the blizzard just gets worse and worse.
As the morning came in and the storm carried on raging on, it became more and more depressing. The thought that this storm was never going to pass.
They've had nothing to drink or eat now for 72 hours. Both men are severely dehydrated. And in the Arctic conditions, Jamie Fisher is succumbing to the effects of hypothermia.
I know that we both must have had thoughts that maybe we wouldn't be making it down alive.
The two climbers are desperately weak from a lack of food and water. In order to survive, Jamie Andrew knows he can't let his friend lose hope.
Neither of us ever mentioned the possibility of not making it. We only talked about positive things.
Jamie, what's the first thing you're going to do when you get down?
I don't know.
I'm going to have a nice hot bath and a boat. I'm going to have a huge pot of tea with about 20 sugars.
Sod the tea. I'm going to have a lukewarm beer.
Good man. Good man.
The afternoon wears on. But just as it seems, they will have to spend yet another night in the blizzard.
It's starting to break. Jamie, the weather's starting to break.
I looked out, and there, for the first time in days, we could see the mountain peaks on the other side of the valley. We heard that unmistakable thud, 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 thud. And straight away, they saw us. That was just an incredible moment. We were rescued. We were down in the valley. We were having hot baths and hot meals, and you know, all that went through our heads.
But as the helicopter attempts to hover directly overhead, it's pushed back by fierce mountain winds.
Where are they gone?
We realized what the difficulty was. It couldn't hover anywhere near us because of the massive updrafts that blew up the mountain face.
Time after time, the helicopter is forced back. Finally, the pilot manages to get within yards of the stricken men.
You know, we could literally see his face. It was really being thrown about all over the place like a toy.
Costa, come on!
At any moment, it looked like it might be dashed against the rocks on the ridge either side of where we were trapped.
But at the last moment, the pilot loses his battle with the wind and is forced to abandon the rescue.
I can't describe how gutted we were to be left there on the mountain on our own. It just felt even more lonely being there, having seen other people for the first time in days, and then just be left abandoned to our fate on the mountain again.
Thousands of feet up a mountain, without food, water, or shelter. All hope of rescue is now gone. But the brief drop in the wind allows them to light the stove to melt ice for water.
It was Jamie who suggested it. I thought he was crazy trying to actually get the stove burning on this ledge between us. And that was just unbelievable. Just the first time in 3 days that would have been that any liquid had passed our lips. To have some hot, sweet tea was just incredible. And that probably saved our lives that night.
But the pleasure is short-lived. The end of the gas means no more water, and they are still severely dehydrated.
It was incredible that we'd survived so far, but we did begin to lose that battle for survival.
It's the worst storm in a century, and there is nowhere to escape the bitter 80-mile-an-hour winds.
But this new weather was way more severe, really. Very, very cold. That kind of wind chill, the human body just can't survive for very long at all.
As the night wears on, the temperature plummets to well below freezing.
The sleeping bags had become useless to us. The snow had got into them, made them damp, and then that damp freezes. So effectively, the sleeping bags had frozen. With every hour that passed, our optimism faded. During that night, we did begin to lose that battle for survival.
What hill are we on? What? Where are we?
Jamie was becoming more and more confused. He didn't seem to know where we were anymore.
Jamie Fisher is becoming delirious. Gripped by hypothermia, his organs are starting to shut down, and not enough blood is reaching his brain.
Come on, Jamie. Know where we are, Jamie. Tell me where we are. I don't know. I can't remember. Come on, Jamie. Come on, Jamie. Tell me where we are. Come on.
My only real memories of that day are just of desperation.
During the night, Jamie Fisher's sleeping bag has come loose. Knowing his friend needs every ounce of warmth, Jamie Andrew tries to zip it back up.
I just pulled it in, and then I realized suddenly that I couldn't move my fingers. In an instant, both hands had just frozen, solid.
His hands are frostbitten. His blood and tissue have turned to ice and are irreparably damaged.
And I remember just, in a futile kind of way, just knocking my two hands together and listening to them as they just went thunk, thunk, thunk. My hands were like pieces of frozen meat. As a mountaineer, one of your biggest fears is always going to be frostbite, because if your fingers freeze, you can't do anything for yourself. You're stuffed.
Jamie is completely paralyzed. He watches helplessly as his best friend, in the final stages of hypothermia, begins to lose his mind.
We gotta go. I gotta go. We gotta go. We gotta go. What are you doing? We gotta go. Jamie!
And Jamie really became quite delirious and was just sort of thrashing about all over the place.
Jamie, what are you doing? We gotta go! Jamie! Go! Jamie, stay here!
If it wasn't for the fact that he was tied to the mountain, he probably would have fallen off.
Jesus Christ, you're gonna push us off the edge! Jamie, you're gonna push us off the edge!
I desperately tried to bring him back, to remind him, you know, what mountain we were on, what we were doing there. I soon realized that this hypothermia was taking him. And there was nothing I could do to stop it.
After 5 days, battling to stay alive on the mountain, the two climbers are now just hours from death.
There was now no way either of us was getting off this mountain alive.
His hands and feet now solid blocks of ice. Jamie Andrew is helpless to do anything to save his best friend.
Once Jamie's core temperature had dropped, his brain was no longer getting the oxygen it needed. Eventually, that deliriousness gave way to unconsciousness, and ultimately he just stopped moving altogether. And when I saw that taking hold of him, I knew that this really, really was the end. That there was no hope now. And of course, having frozen hands myself, there was nothing I could do. In the end, it was Jamie who went first, and I had to witness that. But mercifully, it didn't take long. He obviously wasn't really aware of what was happening. He wasn't suffering. And I remember sitting there realizing that this was the end. That it was the end for Jamie. It was the end for me too, that there was now no way either of us was getting off this mountain alive. Sometime later, and I have no idea how much later, I opened my eyes again. And the first thing that I saw was rays of sunshine as they lit up all the mountain peaks all around me. Moments later, I heard that helicopter approach. This time I knew that somehow they were going to rescue me. Somehow they were going to get me out of there. I was spinning 1,000 meters above the glacier in space in what was literally one of the most spectacular and daring rescues in the history of the Alps. I knew that I'd made it. I'd been rescued and I was going to live.
But the rescue had come too late for Jamie Fisher. His body was taken down from the mountain shortly afterwards. Jamie Andrew underwent surgery to save his life. Surgeons amputated his dead, frostbitten limbs, which were poisoning his blood.
They were very dark days indeed, those first few days after the accident. But on the other hand, I knew that this was to be the low point in my life, and now I could get on with the job of putting my life back together again.
For Jamie Andrew, years of reconstructive surgery and rehabilitation followed. But the memories of those 5 days on the ridge are never far away.
I had survived. I was a lucky one. And so I started to make up my mind that I was going to take on this challenge that had been thrown in front of me, and I was just going to treat it like the next big mountain that I had to climb. And so that's really what I've done, just taking it one step at a time. I have rebuilt my life.
When Steve Callahan's boat sinks in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, he's stranded in a tiny life raft thousands of miles from land.
You're gonna die all alone in the middle of the ocean. I've no hope anymore.
For an incredible 76 days, he battles the sea.
Whether the shark eats me or not, I'm done.
Extreme hunger.
Your body starts eating its own muscle.
And his own mind.
Psychologically, mentally, I was just done.
In an epic fight to stay alive.
I just felt like I was totally doomed.
Help me! Help!
29-year-old Bostonian Steve Callahan is halfway through the sailing trip of a lifetime.
I remember the first time I went out sailing. I love the immediacy of it. You can go off and have an adventure.
He's already sailed from the USA to the Canary Islands and is now heading off on the 3,500-mile return leg, back across the Atlantic to the Caribbean.
Testing.
I figured on the very outside it would be a month to get to the Caribbean, but I'd probably make it in a few weeks.
For Steve, the trip is an adventure and also a means of escape.
My life was in a bit of a shambles. My marriage had gone south and we had split up. There I was, ready for a new stage of my life.
Steve is hoping that isolation on the open seas in his self-built boat will help him leave a difficult year behind.
I was really on my own out there, which was fine. I didn't need people. I didn't really need the society so much. I pictured myself more as like a sea creature.
In Steve's first week at sea, weather conditions could hardly be better.
When I left the Canary Islands for a week, I had just the most idyllic sail. Everything was just beautiful, and I'd listen to my radio and play the boat like a drum. Do my exercise. I had this whole exercise routine on the boat. It just felt completely at home there.
But 800 miles and 1 week out into the mid-Atlantic, the weather begins to change.
The weather just started turning dirty. It was probably blowing 35 or so knots. And the waves started growing.
For an experienced sailor like Steve, it's nothing out of the ordinary.
I'd seen a lot worse weather before. And so I figured, well, it'll probably be a day or two and this will scoot by. I wasn't worried. Everything was fine.
As night falls and the rough weather continues, Steve switches on the autopilot and beds down for the night.
People think that sailing is a very quiet undertaking. It's not. Big waves are slamming against the side of the boat. You get this quite jerky motion, but I was still able to kind of lie down, and I was kind of half asleep. All of a sudden, there was this big bang on the side of the boat. There was just this huge flood of water immediately.
Steve has no idea what he's hit, but the boat's hull has been torn apart.
The water was rising very, very quickly.
Within seconds, the water is above his head.
I just thought, This boat is going to be underwater. I'm going right to the bottom.
Steve's boat is sinking. He knows he has seconds to get to the life raft up on deck.
So I yank on the line, and if the line keeps coming out, no, nothing. This didn't work at all. Finally, boom, it pops open.
Steve makes it to safety. But just as he's about to cut himself loose, a terrifying thought hits him.
With the equipment that's in the raft, I will not last very long at all.
Everything he needs to have any chance of survival is stowed deep inside the flooded boat.
It was essential that I go back on the boat and dive down and get equipment. Even though I realized that the boat could slip under the waves at any moment.
Against every instinct, he knows he has no option but to dive back down into the sinking boat.
It was all dark in there, so I couldn't really see anything. I could feel the ditch kit. It was tied down, and I started cutting away.
Steve frees his emergency supply kit. But just as he makes it to the exit hatch,
The hatch slammed closed. The boat's covered with water. I'm going down. I thought that was it. If I don't get out of here right now, I am going to die. There's 100% certainty of that.
but just as Steve's lungs are about to burst, a huge wave breaks across the boat.
All of a sudden, there's air. It was a huge, huge relief.
With only seconds to spare, Steve escapes, clutching his vital emergency supplies.
I jumped into the raft and I saw that I was drifting away from the boat.
Steve can only watch as he drifts away from not just his boat, but also his dream.
I went drifting off into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It just was kind of devastating. That first night, it blew hard. Really cold and really wet and really scary. I was shivering a lot and I was worried about dying of hypothermia. I might not make it till the morning.
Dawn breaks to reveal the true horror of Steve's situation. His boat is gone, and he is alone in the middle of the Atlantic.
I'm a long way away from anybody, and I'm in a very empty part of the ocean as well. I am just this teeny little thing surrounded by this immensity of sea. It was kind of overpowering.
Steve has no means of communication and knows that no one will be looking for him.
I told people at home, I gave them 5 or 6 weeks after I left the Canary Islands as being, you know, don't worry about me if I don't show up this time.
Steve calculates he's 1,000 miles from land and completely at the mercy of wind and currents as they push him further westwards, out into the ocean.
I was in a place where there was basically no shipping, and I really needed to get to the shipping lanes to have any chance of being picked up at all.
Steve estimates that the shipping lanes are 350 miles further west. But even if the winds still push him in the same direction, it will take him at least 2 weeks to get there. And he only has a tiny supply of emergency drinking water.
I was worried. I had 8 pints of water, which theoretically was good enough for maybe 8 days.
Without enough water, he has almost no chance of making the shipping lanes alive.
It's a great irony that the world's biggest desert actually is the ocean. You can't drink any of the water there. There's no shade, and my chances of survival were almost hopeless.
Along with a harpoon and a few other supplies he rescued from his boat, Steve discovers 3 emergency water purification kits, known as solar stills.
The solar stills that I had were created during the Second World War for downed pilots. I never knew anybody who'd actually used them before. I've got 8 pints of water. It's over 2 weeks before I reach the shipping lane. So the solar stills were absolutely critical to any long-term survival.
Steve fills the still with seawater, knowing that the heat of the sun should separate the salt from the water.
I'd have, half hour, I've got a whole bag of water. I kept trying them again and again and again.
Steve cannot figure out how the solar stills work.
It's seawater. It was just seawater. It just didn't work at all.
And now he faces his first full night adrift in the ocean.
I was desperately lonesome, and there was no part of this that was not kind of a hellish experience.
Steve knows that it's essential he solves his drinking water problem, and the storm gives him an idea.
I knew that most survivors had relied on collecting rainwater.
If Steve can use the raft's canopy to collect rainwater, he may have hit upon an answer.
It was pretty much like drinking somebody's vomit. It was just so awful, it was undrinkable.
The orange pigment from the canopy contaminates the water.
I decided I'm never going to drink the water off the canopy. It was just too dangerous.
Steve's quest to find solace out at sea has resulted in horrific isolation, and he can see no way out of his ordeal.
I wrote my own epitaph that day. My name is Stephen Callahan. I was shipwrecked at approximately this position. I am drifting in a 6-man raft. I'm doomed. I just felt like I was totally doomed.
The currents are pushing Steve westwards, towards the shipping lanes, his only chance of rescue. But he's over 2 weeks away, with only enough water to last him a few days.
It wasn't going to keep me alive very long. You know, I'm taking a little sip every now and then, hardly even swallowing it, really. It's just being more absorbed. I'm getting really thirsty.
Steve ekes out his supplies for a whole week, but knows his only hope are the solar stills. But first he must understand what he's doing wrong.
It was critical to figure out how to use these things. Just like go back just from square one and try to figure out how does this thing actually work.
It's a drastic step, but he decides to rip one of his 3 precious stills apart, in the hope that he can work out how to make them produce fresh water.
Right.
And then it finally dawned on me, it had to be inflated just the right amount. To get the solar still to produce, I'm talking a spoonful of fresh water was like the hugest high I could possibly have.
Steve now has a tiny supply of water. But after 7 days at sea, he faces yet another problem. He's run out of food.
I was really hungry, just like really struck me how desperate I had become. There's no way I'm gonna live out here.
But just as Steve is beginning to think that the ocean is bereft of life,
immediately my heart kind of jumped in my throat. There are fish here. I knew right away that if I'm fishing with a spear in an inflated raft, I'm taking a big chance here. I kept trying and nothing would work. I just couldn't spear one. It was very frustrating.
Steve spends the whole day trying to catch fish. But just as he thinks he may finally succeed, the firing mechanism on his spear gun breaks.
Now, I don't have a range of 6 feet, possibly. I have a range of about 18 inches. I was really hungry. It just really struck me how desperate I had become at that point.
For days, Steve continues to try and catch fish, but to no avail.
In the physical sense, it was incredibly depressing. In terms of what I'd felt like I had done with my life, it was depressing. It was the most hellish time in my life.
All Steve's attempts to catch fish have failed. But if he gives up, he'll die of starvation.
I knew that this was not going to be easy. The fish has got to be right under the spear tip.
Yes!
By day 14, I've caught my first fish and I've produced water. So now, as long as the raft stays in one piece and I keep my act together, I might be able to live out here indefinitely.
For the first time in 14 days, Steve has a sense of hope. But the vast and deadly ocean is not about to let him rest.
All of a sudden, flop, 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 flop against the bottom of the raft in the middle of the night. It was like, what's going on? Boom! The whole raft's lifted up, just punched off the surface of the ocean. Whoa, what the hell was that?
A massive shark is attacking Steve's life raft.
It was gonna rip apart the raft. And then I'd be left in the water and forget it. Whether the shark eats me or not, I'm done. I was so freaked out about it, I thought for sure that was gonna be it. I was being attacked. This thing was really whacking away at the raft. Finally hit it a few times with a spear, and then it went away. There's a ship right there on the horizon, right in front of me. And I thought, this is it.
I'm here!
After 15 days lost at sea, Steve has finally drifted into the shipping lanes.
Come here! Yeah! Come here!
And it's perfect conditions, it's fairly calm out, completely black night, perfect for flares.
Help! Help!
It looks like the ship's coming for me. It keeps steaming towards me and steaming towards me, and I was convinced that it had seen me. And it was close enough I could smell the diesel in the air.
To Steve's utter elation, rescue has come at last.
Cheers!
And then just goes right by me. I'm sitting there rocking in its wake after it went by. I was most disappointed in myself because I knew that that was probably going to be the case with the ship. It's really, really hard to see something at sea, even if you know it's there and you're looking for it. So if you're not looking for it, it's really hard to be seen.
Steve is once again left alone in the ocean. But at least now, he has the real hope of being spotted by passing ships.
all the way around the clock. I would just give a really careful look all the way around the horizon. Every morning was a bit of hope, and then every afternoon was like the depths of fatigue and despair.
Over the next 10 days, Steve spots only a handful of ships. They all sail by.
I've seen ships, I've signaled them, nobody stops and picks me up.
Steve slowly begins to realize that the shipping lanes are just as empty as the rest of the ocean.
Having that whole fantasy blown to hell, basically, was definitively the hugest down.
After a month at sea, Steve has drifted right through the shipping lanes, unnoticed. And back home, nobody even knows he's missing.
So pulled with emotions. That was the first time I cried. It was like, this is the state of my life. What are you doing out here? My life just seemed completely and utterly as open and empty as the ocean.
Steve has drifted an epic 700 miles, but now faces a devastating new reality. His next chance of rescue won't come until he reaches the Caribbean, another 1,000 miles away.
At first, I never thought I'd even reach the shipping lanes. So thinking about getting all the way to the islands, which was, way beyond the shipping lanes, was not even conceivable to me.
But if Steve is going to survive, he knows there's no time for self-pity.
I was discovering I was way more resilient than I ever thought I could be. I'm on my own. Nobody's going to pick me up. I've got to reach the islands now. Count on yourself. Count on keeping your boat together and keep your act together and continuing your voyage.
Steve is still averaging 25 miles a day. But checking his charts again, a terrible thought dawns on him. If he drifts any further north, he'll miss the Caribbean completely and be swept back into the mid-Atlantic.
I would have been in a voyage of indeterminate length, years possible. I'd be a total disaster.
But conditions aboard the raft are also placing Steve's survival in serious doubt.
The environment was just incredibly horrible. I could never stretch out straight in the raft, so I'd lie down kind of curled on my side, getting cramps in my legs, so I could sleep about an hour at a time. I started developing all these little saltwater sores. And you're sitting in a salt-encrusted environment, so you're having literally salt rubbed into the wounds 24/7.
Steve now drifts into tropical waters, and it's getting hotter. His body is desperate for more water than the 2 remaining solar stills can produce.
The dehydration is just agonizing. Dying to get a drop where, I'm looking at the solar still and watching these drops come down in a spoonful of water. If somebody come along and said, well, you got a choice. You can have this cup of water, but we have to take your hand for it. Which do you want? I'd probably say, take the hand.
Steve is also increasingly ravaged with hunger.
I was starving all the time. And your body starts eating its own muscle. As a result, I was getting skinnier and more desperate. There's just this great emptiness that can never be filled up. I speared the Storado.
But just as he thinks he's landed a fish,
it went right through it, and the Dorado just busted the end of the spear off. And the Dorado just rolled over and ran along the bottom tubes. It was just like one of these, oh my God, moments. There was a horrible sound, and it was just like, all these bubbles coming out. The thing just deflated really, really quickly.
The impaled fish has punctured the life raft. Steve is now sinking into the ocean.
And I knew I was in serious, serious trouble. Pretty short order. The whole bottom tube was completely deflated. It ripped a hole about that long in the tube. I thought that I could go indefinitely as long as the raft was in one piece, and now the raft isn't in one piece anymore. Maybe this is going to be the end of the line.
With the crucial bottom ring of his raft damaged, it is now too unstable for Steve to fish or collect water.
It was like I was walking in rubber quicksand. Plus, it's not really drifting very fast with the wind. So I'm not going to make it if I don't find a solution. I kept getting a repair on there, and I wound stuff around it really tight, and I'd pump it up. I kept doing it again and again and again for days.
Please.
It was really very depressing because I just didn't think that I could fix it.
Steve knows the punctured raft is a disaster. He's going slower, wasting precious calories pumping it up, and now faces an even bigger problem.
I started consuming both water and the fish that was hanging to dry. I was unable to renew that stock while the bottom was deflated. I imagine it wouldn't have been a whole lot longer before I would have died.
For 10 days, Steve exhausts himself trying to keep the raft inflated, but fails. After battling to stay alive for so long, it's the final straw.
I was absolutely beat. That was it. I gave up. I just laid down. I was like, I just totally broke down. You're gonna die all alone in the middle of the ocean. You've never done anything successful in your life. I only had failed marriage, failed relationships. I'd never really given enough of myself to anybody. I just wasted a life.
Starving, thirsty, and without hope, Steve feels that death is now a certainty.
And then I got scared. This is very real, and you're gonna be dead in a matter of hours if you don't snap out of it. And get yourself together.
In a final act of desperation, Steve searches for anything that might save his life.
And it just, something happened and it just clicked and I go, oh yeah, the fork.
Steve hopes that a fork might just be strong enough to secure a patch to the raft.
Jump around and jump for joy or anything, but that was just like the hugest victory of my life.
But Steve's elation is short-lived. His supplies have virtually vanished. He's still hundreds of miles from land, and his body is desperately weak.
Well, yeah, I got out of that, but now what? I'm still doomed. There's a day off your life. There's another day off your life. I really didn't think I was gonna make it. It really was a period of just hanging on. Oh my God, this is such marginal life. Looking at my watch and thinking that minutes had passed, looking at it again and it being like 30 seconds had passed. It was like, it just seemed to drag on a really long time.
After 66 days alone, Steve's final lifeline is gone. His solar stills have reached the end of their working life.
The cloth on the bottom is rotted out. It's going to be totally useless. There's no way to repair it.
His only means of producing drinking water is now gone.
I just figured this really is it. You know, I have no hope anymore. It was ending.
Steve now only has 3 cans of emergency water left, and his body's toxic salt levels are pushing his sanity to the limits.
The physical part of me is going, hey, there's water over there, let's go snag that. But there was that overbearing rational part of me that was going, no, I don't care. Unless, you know, you are dying, you're not getting into that right yet. This is a view of heaven from a seat in hell.
Alone on the ocean for over 70 days, Steve's body and mind are now shutting down. His only hope is to reach land.
I expected to see the islands like days and days before now. I should be reaching the islands. I should be seeing some sign of reaching the islands.
But then Steve has a shocking realization. If he's miscalculated his position, currents will sweep him back into mid-ocean and certain doom.
Maybe I'm way north of the islands, next stop England, you know, 8 months from now. So that was tough. I was very worried that I had screwed up and I wasn't going to make it. I just don't know anymore. Maybe I'm dead. I've never been dead before. Maybe this is what it's like, and this is what I deserve for my shabby life, and maybe I'm just gonna be floating around out here forever. I felt all the hopelessness of people who'd been adrift at sea before and never came back, and nobody ever knew what happened to them. And here I was amongst them, and I could kind of feel them all around me. It just was a horribly desperate feeling. It was over. I was just done. I had no more to give. All of a sudden, it was like all kinds of crates and bottles and plastic. To me, that was the first definitive sign that I was coming into changes. I'm gonna see something. The sun rose. It was like, pff, there's an island in front of me. I couldn't have been more than 10 miles out. To see the green of the island was like, oh, it was it was intense.
But to his horror, Steve realizes that the island is an impregnable fortress of vertical cliffs and razor-sharp coral reefs.
Oh my God, I've come all this way, and there's no way I can make a landing.
After enduring so much for so long, Steve can't let salvation slip away from him at the final hurdle.
This voyage is ending today. No question about it. One way or the other, this is going to come to an end. That's great. I couldn't believe somebody was actually out there.
On the morning of his 76th day adrift, Steve is spotted by some local fishermen.
He said something to the effect of like, "What you doing out here, Mon?" You know, it's like, well, I'm not out here, you know, improving my suntan. My senses were like plugged into an electric circuit somehow. They were all amplified so that every color was like really, really vibrant and every smell was really, really intense. It just was like heart-wrenching. It was so beautiful to me.
Having endured 76 days in his tiny raft, Steve's leg muscles have atrophied and he weighs just 100 pounds. After 6 weeks in the hospital, Steve is reunited with the parents he thought he'd never see again. The small island of Marie-Galante, where he's found, is just 60 miles south of his original destination, Antigua.
There's nothing noble in me having survived. It's just what I did. I had too much unfinished business, and I think that kept me alive to a large degree.